The Japanese region pack gets released today for free on PDX Mods. I will show you what to expect from the pack, if it's worth it to download the 4.4 GB or if you can skip it this time, and how to build a realistic Japanese town with all the new assets. I'm Imperatur, just a chill guy who loves playing city building games, and you're watching me traveling to the other side of the world. The Japanese region pack was created by Kaminogi, Koma and StopItD, 3 talented creators for Japanese assets back in the Steam Workshop days. With the pack you will get a bunch of new zoning types and a few typical Japanese service buildings to create a realistic Japanese-inspired city. Let's start with the service buildings. You'll see the basic version on the left and the assets with all the upgrades and extensions on the right. We have, for example, police stations, firehouses, a welfare office, medical clinics and hospitals, a bunch of schools and also a water treatment plant. Some of the buildings look very under-detailed though, in my opinion, especially the courtyards are partly a bit bare bones. Also, the schools have very buggy fences when you look at them from certain angles. I hope they fix that soon. I especially noticed in the recent region packs that the LOD models for some buildings are extremely bad. That's a real bummer, but at least all this content is free to download on PDX Mods, so that's an epic move. It's crazy to me we get all this new stuff without paying any money. GG Paradox. Then we also have 4 new zones with buildings from level 1 to 5. So you have 3 versions of every building. 1 and 2 are the same, 3 and 4 with additional floors, and the last one is the maximum level 5 version. So the huge amount of assets is mostly due to that level system. We'll get low density housing, medium density housing, mixed housing and low density businesses. What's a bit unfortunate that basically all region packs have the same zoning types, and that's mostly residential zones. I hope we'll get some industrial buildings or more office and commercial zones in the upcoming region packs. I have to admit I'm especially hyped for the American ones, but nevertheless I'm glad for all the new buildings. What do you think? Do you like them or have you expected more? And on what type of city are you working on right now? I'll show you how to build a realistic Japanese town and let me know if I should start a Japan-inspired series.
日本の街を建設する
Now that we've seen what assets are available to us, I thought it would be cool to build a Japanese city to show you what it could look like to build a realistic Japanese town in the game. First of all, I started by drawing a Shinkansen line across the map as a bridge. You can often find this throughout Japan, that the Shinkansen high-speed train, which connects the major Japanese cities with each other, runs in a straight route on bridges or through tunnels across the landscape. This has to be the case, of course, as the trains travel at a very high speed and every incline and every curve can lead to a speed reduction. Then I used the road builder to create a smaller, narrow road without parking spaces. This is also very common in Japan, and I used this to simply build a few main roads to get the rough shape of the street layout. Then I thought it would be really cool if we had a small canal. I built the outline with footpaths, lowered the ground a bit and put a water surface over it. Like that we created a small stream that runs through the town. With just a few smaller streets I'll finish the road layout and then we can start adding the first service buildings.
なんて美しい小さな街なんだろう
I started by placing the first elementary school here, however you should upgrade it because the schoolyard is actually very bland without the upgrades in my opinion, but with it the whole thing looks much better. I then placed the new sewage treatment plant and also the police and fire department. These are definitely very cool assets and remind me a bit of the Japan content creator pack from the first city Skylines, but that's probably obvious because Japan also has a very distinct architectural style that is definitely unmistakable. Fortunately, some buildings can also be used in other settings, however can't really use them in my current city build. The UK pack was definitely more useful for my purposes as I am building a North American inspired city right now. One thing what I really miss in this pack is train stations or anything that has to do with public transportation. In this regard, Japan is one of the top nations in the world and they could have added at least one train or metro station, because Japan is also very well known for having a very effective and well functioning public transportation system, but I guess you can't have everything. But we got a lot of cool buildings. The residential buildings are also very detailed with nice little gardens and backyard props. The high density buildings also have the typical Japanese style. Although I haven't used them quite as much here in this build, it's more of a small town and not a big city like Tokyo or Osaka. To make the whole development a bit denser, I also used the ploppable zoned buildings mod and simply placed a few industrial warehouses or general houses behind the already placed buildings. That way we increased the density and were also able to paint some of the roofs in that typical blue color or just grey. I think the roof color always makes a big difference if you want to represent different cities from different regions of the world. For example, in Southern Europe we have these terracotta and orange colors. In Korea or Japan it's often green and blue roofs, and in other countries rather grey, for example. That makes such a huge difference, and from far away you can represent different city building styles just by changing the roof color to the region's typical type. As always, I build my cities in different stages. The streets and railways always come first and then the houses, then I take care of the different surfaces. For example, we've put these sand surfaces or some concrete in between the different buildings. To get that realistic Japanese town feel, we still needed different farm fields scattered around the town. So I placed a few farms here and there and used the farm surface to represent the different fields. But I also used different grass textures to add a bit of variation. After that, I took care of the Shinkansen track. The vanilla pillars from the railroads are a bit too few. The whole bridge mechanic just doesn't look good in general. That's why I searched for pillars with Find It and placed them under the track. That's how we get that typical Shinkansen high-speed track look. That's definitely very important for the general context of the build. After that, I put different gravel surfaces under the track. Lastly, I put different decals on the surface to make everything look a bit more realistic, and to finish the build we had to plant a lot of trees, because trees always make the biggest difference for a realistic city look. I think I'd also like to make a video where I take a city and just show how much difference it makes to place trees in strategic spots. What do you think about that idea? Oh yes, and of course we mustn't forget the power lines. They are also very typical of Japanese cities. However, in Japan they tend to have concrete pillars rather than wooden ones, but unfortunately we don't have any other options at the moment. Of course, it would be cool if you could just get something like that in the content creator packs. But let's not ask too much for now. This was the construction of a small typical Japanese town. I hope you enjoyed this short video and all the news about the new content. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. I would also be happy if you would consider supporting me on Patreon. This is the best way to support the channel and to get extra content like save games for my ongoing series, for example. example. But of course, I am also thankful for every single person who watched the video until the end. Thank you very much, and especially to my Patreon supporters. I have also a TikTok account if you like short form content, and now I say thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a nice rest of the day. Ciao ciao for now.